Hey everybody, we need to talk about the future of Smash Esports and everything that has happened in the past couple of weeks around the Smash World Tour and the future of esports in general as it concerns Nintendo and the fighting game community. This is a big deal, and there are some real important things we need to break down here. If you care about esports or the future of fighting games, this is something that you're going to want to watch. Let's start by identifying the two groups that are going to be in this story. The first one is Panda Global. That's an esports organization that's predominantly in FGC, and they're running what's called the Panda Cup, an officially licensed Nintendo event. And then there's SWT, also called the Smash World Tour, owned by VG Bootcamp, and that is not licensed by Nintendo. So these are basically understood to be Smash circuits, okay? So imagine a series of tournaments that happens throughout the year that leads up to a big tournament. And actually, Smash World Tour was going to be one of the largest tournaments ever to exist within Smash, and with the prize pool being over $250,000 and the 2023 prize pool being over $350,000. And as a former owner of a esports organization called CLG, I cannot tell you how important that would have been. I cannot overstate how important that would have been to the legitimacy of Smash and esports. But just before the tournament was to begin, 2 weeks before the tournament was to begin, Nintendo allegedly sent a message to VG Bootcamp and the Smash World Tour and said, that's it, it's over. You cannot run this tournament, and you cannot run any other tournaments later on without a license, which you're not going to get. So we need to break down what exactly happened here, because there's some serious nefarious stuff going on, and we're going to go through what happened with Panda Global. We're going to go through what happened with the Smash World Tour, and a lot of things that I think a lot of people missed about this news. It's going to be a full breakdown. My goal is to get you to have a total understanding of everything that's going on by the end of this. Okay, so we start here with the Smash World Tour official statement, and I've broken down some of the important things that you're going to need to know about it. I'm going to link the thing in the description down below, but the statement starts with the things you need to understand about the statement. Without any warning, we received the notice this night before Thanksgiving from Nintendo that we could no longer operate. This was shocking, given our discourse with Nintendo over the past 12 months. We have begun working around the clock to take proper steps logistically, as well as prepare a statement with proper legal guidance. So, what is really interesting about this particular story is that the Smash World Tour was in contact with Nintendo as much as a year and a half ago, trying to get this event licensed by Nintendo, meaning that Nintendo, what is, like, if we want to break down what a license is, that's essentially legal permission from Nintendo to say, you can use our IP in this event, you can run this tournament, we've approved this, and that's, some kind of written contract that needs to go back and forth. Nintendo owns that license. They've used it in the past to shut down many different tournaments. We'll talk about that later. And if without that license, you can't legally run something, and Nintendo has the right to sue you or to cease and desist that tournament, or even something like your stream or a YouTube video that you make about Nintendo. Basically, anything that's using their IP in that way that cannot be construed as free as a fair use is going to be liable, is going to be subject to that licensing, and we'll talk more about that later too. So I want to just kind of like put down some of the really important points about this communication. So Smash World Tour is going and setting up, and everything's fine. And there's also a circuit that's being formed by Panda Global. Panda Global has gone and reached out to Nintendo. They've managed to get an official license from Nintendo regarding the running the tournament, and they've said, okay, that's fine. And okay, it's all great. No problems, right? And I would argue that having two tournaments is fine. Having two circuits is fine. Generally, more esports is better. They don't really compete with each other. Viewers will watch and get interested. That's all fine. But if you start looking into the history of this, apparently it has been the case that Panda Global CEO Alan has been going around saying to various tournament organizers that the Smash World Tour will get shut down. So here's some about that. The attempts from Panda to undermine the Smash World Tour have not stopped. The CEO continues to tell organizers we are definitely not coming back in 2022. And if we did, we'd get shut down shortly after. And that turned out to be totally right. So he knew something that other people didn't know. And we're going to break into like why that might have happened. And some of the insight I have as an org owner as to why that might have happened. Organizers were told that their individual events would also be at risk if they're on the Smash World Tour. And some people dropped out because of that. Just like kind of painting the scene. So Smash World Tour, owned by VG Bootcamp, has an application in process from Nintendo for almost a year. At this point, Panda has already had an application approved, and they're running their circuit. They're done. But Panda Cup is basically like the CEO and Panda Global is going around telling people that the Smash World Tour is not legitimate, and they even approach another tournament organizer, a tournament organizer named BTS Beyond the Summit, who did confirm this in their own Twitter, and they said that they wanted broadcasting rights to BTS, which basically means we want permission to be able to use your content. And BTS is like, no, like you got to pay for that, which is a super normal response. And at the end of the day, BTS basically said, we're not joining Panda Cup, and we never will. They said that in a tweet. And they alleged that the CEO of Panda threatened to shut them down and threatened that they would not be able to run their tournaments as well. And Panda Global actually, in a breaking statement, actually acknowledged this. So we do know this happened. So this is pretty crazy, right? So you've basically got Panda Global kind of going around allegedly sabotaging events, while at the same time, Nintendo is not responding to Smash World Tour and saying, hey, you guys can run this tournament. The license is basically just in limbo and nothing's happening. And now here's the part of the story where this stuff starts to get really crazy. I'm going to read you this. And this is at the point where Nintendo kind of comes in and says, we're going to shut this down. That apparently there was the correspondence through Nintendo. Prior to that, they had gotten on a phone call and they had said, they reassured us that Nintendo is only looking to shut down IP infringement related to game mods and not the unlicensed Smash World Tour. The Panda CEO does not represent Nintendo, and they would have to have a conversation with him about his behavior. And they reminded us and reassured us that Panda's license is not exclusive, so they can see two circuits. So Nintendo is telling SWT this, and that their goal is not to gatekeep or trap the community, and the license guidelines would be accessible and clear. But then what happened is crazy, right? So now what's happened is, as a last-ditch effort after the shutdown, we asked if we could continue running championships and the net tour next year without a license and shift our focus to working with them in 2024. We alluded to how last year functioned in that capacity and a mutual understanding that we would not get shut down and focus on the future. We were told directly that those times are now over. This was the final nail in the coffin given our very particular relationship with Nintendo. We realized it was truly all being shut down for real. We asked if they understood the waves that would be made if we were forced to cancel. Nintendo communicated that they were indeed aware. So what happened here, where there is somebody telling them from Nintendo that it's fine, that the CEO doesn't represent Nintendo, and that everything seems to be fine, but then this person comes and informs them that not only are they pulled for 2022 and 2023, but they're pulled indefinitely, and as is any unlicensed tournament in the history of Smash Esports going forward, which is pretty big news. That's kind of crazy, okay? So we got to break down what happened here, and I think I understand what happened here. So if you look at the shutdown, there's a really important thing here, and I want to read you this that I think everybody else missed, okay? Last Wednesday evening, we had our recent call with Nintendo. Our Nintendo rep opened by letting us know they are being asked to deliver news going forward. Nintendo expects us to only operate with a commercial license. We would not be granted one for the upcoming championships or any activity in 2023. Now, I want you to read this very carefully. Our Nintendo rep opened by letting us know they are being asked to deliver the news right here. This is probably the most important part of this news that you need to pay attention to, because what that means to me is that basically this entire interaction, SWT was probably talking to a PM or relatively low-level manager. And this is super common that if there's somebody that is like an organization that you're talking to and you're a publisher or you're some big company, you're just going to give them to a project manager or somebody that's going to kind of own that task. But the actual senior executives are the ones making the decisions. It is clear to me, before we go onward, I just want to clarify this, that just in the way I'm reading this conversation and the way that I understand esports, that Panda Global has a communication with actual senior executives at Nintendo that are able to make decisions. And I don't think VG Bootcamp ever got beyond whatever the PM they were talking to was, which is interesting because they say in their statement that they were talking to multiple senior team members. But I don't believe that, because what ended up happening was that when the shutdown notice came, it wasn't from an executive. It was from someone who was asked to communicate to them via somebody with that authority. That's really important, because that means that explains why there's all this miscommunication, right? At one level, you have PMs that are saying, yeah, sure, like this, like I can't tell you. And this is one of the reasons why as a business owner, I don't talk to like many PMs or people that don't have decision-making power anymore, because it annoys the hell out of me when they're like, yeah, let's do that. Like, let's do a project. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've been at Twitch or YouTube or something. I've talked to some project manager that's been like, yeah, cool. Like, we could totally do that. We've got budget for that. Like, I'll just have to like send an email and get that approved. And then like, obviously the executive who's really in charge of that is like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. So it's really clear that Nintendo's executive team had a super different vision for this, and that wasn't being communicated across to the project manager who was in charge of managing the SWT account and relationship. So as a result, of course, there was this miscommunication. SWT gets blindsided, right? They're like, what? Like, what's going on? And if we want to be really tinfoil about this, and I can't confirm this or whatever, indeed, because Panda Global is an organization, and officially licensed by Nintendo, they had some kind of communication with a senior level executive, and maybe even were able to kind of move this a little bit and make something like this happen if they're interested in exclusivity. Again, I have no confirmation of that, but that is something they could possibly do. Now, why would it be that a organization like Panda Global has more, let's say, equity or value in building a relationship with someone like Nintendo? Well, Nintendo is going to want to attach themselves to like an established esports organization versus VG Bootcamp, which is kind of just like a conglomeration of people. Now, I'm not saying that's like not professional, but they're not like an esports org and in the same way, and or may not have presented themselves that way. And as a result, like Panda Global could say, look, we're in the scene. We have investors. We have a P&L. We have like a company. We have like CEOs. We have a hierarchical traditional structure, and especially a kind of an old school Japanese company like Nintendo can be like, okay, we understand that, and we vibe with that. That's good. We understand that you have more contractual obligations to sort of like get to where we want you to go and like meet our standards for what we would want you to run a tournament as. And there's just a lot of stuff that like that business structure provides to in terms of like confidence and security for someone like Nintendo. Okay, so we're gonna break down why Nintendo made this decision. But that's the first thing to understand about this. When you're seeing a lot of miscommunication between these entities, it is because it is very obvious that VG Bootcamp was talking to two separate teams, and Panda Global had access to someone that was way higher up and was making way bigger decisions and may have even had influence over that person. All right. So now, in breaking news, Nintendo released a statement, and this is like dead breaking news at the time of this recording, where they issued a full statement where they said, the decision was solely based on our assessment of the proposals submitted by SWT and our evaluations of their unlicensed activities. This decision was not influenced by any external parties such as Panda Global. Any partner that we grant a license to has to meet the high standards we require when it comes to health and safety of our fans. It's important that a partner adheres to brand and IP guidelines and conducts itself according to professional and organizational best practices. We use the same approach to independently assess all partners. If we discover the partner is doing something inappropriate, we will work to correct it. When we notified SWT we would not license them their 2022 or 2023 activities, we also let them know verbally that we were not requiring they cancel the 2022 final event because of the impact it would have on players. The decision to cancel SWT 2022 was and still is their own choice. Okay, and then they talk about Panda Cup being awesome. So what the hell is going on here? This is a weird statement. Okay, because if you look at well, let's go through all the statements first that have just happened, okay? So here's Panda Global statement that they just released today, and that is just making sure there's no weird images over there, okay? The team that manages and administers Panda Club have worked diligently to create whatever. I'm not going to read all this BS, okay? We're surprised as the public to see the announcement of the Smash World Tour cancellation. The team was not informed of this. They're basically denying all activity, but they do admit here, this is kind of the important thing about this, the Panda Cup team does acknowledge and regret an interaction between Dr. Allen and Beyond the Summit in which he spoke in a manner which did not reflect either guidance from Nintendo or our own standards. Panda takes effort to rectify the situation immediately, and the second half of the year, a dedicated team made up of multiple staff members assembled to manage Panda Cup activities, okay? So they admitted to the bullying of the Beyond the Summit and basically like all the stuff about the broadcast rights and everything. They said, yep, that was not good. They didn't specify what actually happened in that, but they state that they had no involvement in the Smash World Tour situation. And then Smash World Tour has followed up with their own Google Doc, and they said that they were really surprised about Nintendo's response saying that, hey, you could run the tournament, because they say that they got in writing that they can't run the 2022 tournament. Okay? So Nintendo, they say, we're unsure why we're taking this angle, especially in light of the greatest statement all of it retains. To reiterate, we asked Nintendo multiple times if they had considered the implications of canceling the championship as well as next year's tour. They had considered all variables. We received this statement in writing from Nintendo shortly after the call. It is Nintendo's expectation that an approved license be secured to order and operate any commercial activity featuring Nintendo's IP. It is expected you secure such a license. We found that Smash World Tour has not met these expectations around health and safety guidelines. It has not adhered to our internal partner guidelines. Nintendo will not be able to grant a license for Smash World Tour or any Smash World Tour activity in 2023. Okay, so what's happening here? Why is Nintendo saying that they are like, we did well? Okay, it's a very, very annoying technicality. Okay, is what's happening here. So Nintendo says, yeah, sure, we didn't tell them that they had to cancel cancel the Smash World Tour. We didn't say you had to cancel it. We just said you don't have a license, and so if you don't have a license, you didn't meet our guidelines. We can't grant you a license. And it just so happens that that license needs to be secured in order to operate any commercial activity featuring the Nintendo IP. But we didn't have to cancel it, right? So this is a very kind of dodgy way to kind of get out of owning this. And then Panda Global is even worse because they obviously had something to do with the Smash World Tour. It's been collaborated by dozens of players and people that are both within Panda Global and within VG Bootcamp. So obviously they had something to do with this. They send a super lukewarm PR statement out that says, hey, didn't have anything. And by the way, yeah, maybe that Beyond the Summit thing. Apologize for that. All good. By the way, the Panda Club has invested thousands of hours in making the cup as strong as offering we can provide. It's going to be amazing. Okay, so obviously, right? Let's look at the big stuff here, okay? The logic behind all this. All right? What is the incentive? This is a question I always ask myself in business, okay? So let's look at the Smash World Tour, okay? They have spent a full year on this tournament, and we're 2 weeks out. They've got prize. So by 2 weeks, you've got prize pool, you've got flights, you've got contestants all organized. You've got everyone there. You've got announcers, and you've got sponsors. You've got everything. Why would they cancel their own tournament 2 weeks before and toss all that out the window and tens of thousands of dollars? There is no incentive for them to do that. It makes no sense. Now, what is the incentive for Panda Global? To run an exclusive circuit for Smash. I mean, I could end the video here, right? Like that. It's pretty clear that I can't because there's a lot of really important stuff to cover. But it's pretty clear that if Panda Global were to do something, now I'm not saying they did, okay? But if Panda Global were to have an incentive to go bully other tournaments and to go to Nintendo and say, we want to be the only circuit in town, we want to have all the tournaments go to Panda Global, they have every single incentive to do that, don't they? They have every incentive to shut down other tournaments, to get the viewership on them, to make sure that every localized tournament that's going to be in the Panda Cup circuit is going to be one of their own tournaments that they have the broadcasting rights to, that they can then get the sponsors for, that they can then monetize, that they can then sell tickets for, and on and on and on, right? So it makes perfect sense to me that if you look at all these conflicting statements, I can't see a universe where Smash World Tour is not telling the truth. Why wouldn't they? Right? They wouldn't just shut down their own. The only remote situation where that is not the case is Smash World Tour is completely screwed. They've messed up their entire tournament, and they have no hope, and they have to cancel, and they make up the story. It's so unlikely that is going to be the case, right? It's way more likely that somebody from Panda Global was bullying people around trying to get an official licensed event to be the only Nintendo event, and they were doing it at the cost of all of Smash Esports. And then when everybody called them on their BS, they were like, oh, yeah, okay, sorry about that. And it's also far more likely that they have a contact at Nintendo who is a senior executive who's making these decisions. All right? So that is what I think is actually happening with all this drama between BTS, Nintendo, Panda Global, and SWT. I think SWT got screwed really bad. And I think that Panda Global's behind it. More or less. Now, we can't absolve Nintendo of this because Nintendo has had serious issues with this in the past. And there are actually there's actually a whole list. I'm going to link it in the description, but there's a whole list of all of the events that Nintendo has canceled over time. So there are a ton of various events that just never happened because Nintendo went through and canceled something both in Melee and within Ultimate. So that kind of leads us to the next question, which is like, why is Nintendo like this? Okay, like, why is Nintendo like this? And this is something that I don't really see discussed in a lot of these kind of conversations. And we're going to kind of explain like why Nintendo doesn't have illegitimate reasons for like what they're doing with esports, and I think you'll understand. Kind of a lot of people will understand at the end of this session what's happening. Okay, so this is 3 sections. The first one is the actual game design and view. This is the one that probably everybody knows, which is Sakurai, who's the lead designer on Ultimate and most of Smash. It just doesn't believe that this is foremost a competitive game. So he says things like, I feel like a game at the end of the day is about playing a game. If we focus too much on the top level players or the audience, the game skews a little bit too much to the technical side. The philosophy behind this doesn't go in line with Nintendo's philosophy in that some players are playing for prize money. It comes to a point where they're playing the game for the money. I feel like that kind of direction doesn't coincide with Nintendo's view of what games should be. So Sakurai has said multiple times that he doesn't really believe Smash should foremost be a competitive game. Now, a lot of people have misconstrued Sakurai, and they think that that means that Sakurai doesn't want a competitive scene. That is not true. Sakurai has been shown to be watching tournaments. He's been shown to enjoy the competitive side. He just wants it to be a party game first, okay? So Smash is meant to be a party game first, and then a competitive game second. And that will probably always be how it is. So Sakurai isn't anti-competitive. I've seen like a lot of Reddit threads and YouTube videos that call him anti-competitive. I don't think that's the case. Because if you look at the history of Smash 4 and Ultimate, there were a lot of changes to the game that were made with the competitive scene in mind. I just think that he feels like Smash shouldn't be defined only by its competitive aspect. That competition has like a very large barrier to entry. It can create a kind of scary type of thing for casual players, which are most of Nintendo's audience. And that kind of leads us into some of the bigger reasons, which is the financial issues. And this is kind of like something I don't hear talked about, which is if you think about competitive Smash is a small esport, relatively. Right now, it has pretty good viewership. Sometimes there'll be 30,000 people, 50,000 people, even 100,000 people, 200,000 people watching EVO or something. But it's still relatively small compared to the LCS, compared to some of these larger, more established esports. But more importantly, if we look at Smash Ultimate as a game, Smash Ultimate sold 30 million copies, okay? How many of those copies do you think were bought on the esports competitive side? And how many of them do you think were bought by casual people who wanted to play in their house with their kids? The answer is most of them are casual. That's most of Nintendo's audience. So the Smash is a game in Nintendo's mind that is designed for people to just have fun with. And while Smash Melee appeals to thousands of people, there is no benefit to Nintendo financially for supporting it. It's an old game they no longer sell. And but more importantly, and something that I think a lot of people are missing, is if Nintendo did run a officially licensed circuit themselves, would they benefit? I would argue no, they wouldn't. And here's a couple of reasons. One, it's a console game. So all of the things that go into a game like League of Legends or the LCS, where you can be sponsored by mice and you can be sponsored by keyboards, you can be sponsored by monitors, all that stuff is out the window because Nintendo, it's just the Switch, right? Nintendo just has their own thing. They're not going to be able to get a lot of sponsors for their console game because all their hardware is just their own stuff. So it's a console game. And in addition to that, this is like another really important thing, and it's something that I think a lot of Smash people don't like to talk about, but there is enormous liability in running your own circuit, and this was highlighted by this thread. In 2020, there was a enormous amount of allegations against hundreds of people within the Smash community. I will link this thread. And this was a big deal. So when you inherit a community and you officially put that under your brand, you're also inheriting all the problems that come with it and the players at that And the last thing that Nintendo wants to do as a family-friendly company that appeals to kids is license an official tournament that they then might think would have something like that came out in 2020 come out about it. And when you understand that, you understand why Nintendo is so appropriately cautious about and why they are trying to license events and why they're trying to make sure. And now it should make more sense to you why a company like Panda Global gets permission, because Panda Global is unlikely to have some kind of scandal like that. They're more likely, and if they are, they're more likely to like fire that person. There's like processes you can do. You could release PR statements. You can get legal involved. There's all kinds of things you can do as an organization. So Nintendo has very little incentive to run their own circuit, and furthermore, it's not profitable to do so. We've seen that with OWL. We've seen that with CDL. There have been numerous leagues that have been attempted to be started for esports that are just not successful. They just don't work. And why don't they work? Because esports doesn't make money. It's hard to get sponsors. We talked about that in numerous different videos. It's just it's impossible really to get your head around. It's not profitable to run a league. So groups like the LCS can do it because they are basically using the League of Legends esports as a giant marketing arm to sell skins, but Nintendo doesn't have skins. Nintendo doesn't sell that kind of stuff. They sell DLCs for characters, but they don't have skins to sell. They don't have the same monetization model as Riot does. Therefore, it is not financially profitable for them to do it. So when I think it should make sense to you, like a lot of people are demonizing Nintendo, and there's some appropriate demonization in there, where it's like, yeah, they are an older organization. They are more traditional. They are probably disconnected from the competitive community, but they have a lot of legitimate reasons for not running for not investing in Smash esports. Like the Smash players and Smash organizers have given them a few good reasons over the last few years. I don't think anybody can deny to be afraid of officially licensed tournaments unless they're very careful. And furthermore than that, it makes no financial sense for them to invest into competitive esports with the way that their model is. So that is why Nintendo kind of stays on the sidelines. All right. So once you understand that, I think you kind of get a full picture. And here is the twitlonger. I will link you in the description down below of just the sheer number of tournaments that Nintendo has gone after and destroyed, including some really major players in this thread. ESL made an attempt to work with Nintendo. Twitch itself made it. Red Bull, NLG. These are major players within HTC, within esports, that have basically all tried to work with Nintendo and all has failed. Now, I'm going to tell you something that I don't think makes sense to me, because it may sound like I'm defending Nintendo here, like I have no incentive in doing so. One thing that I really don't understand about Nintendo is why not let the grassroots stuff exist? I understand not officially supporting something yourself, and I don't think Nintendo should ever do that. Just as a business owner myself, I kind of understand why they would never do that. That's fine. But why not let the grassroots stuff exist? I don't mind that they're not going to get directly involved, but this change now where you have to have a license to play the game, it's hard for me to imagine why Nintendo just wouldn't kind of turn their head the other way and say, yeah, sure, you can use our IP and you can run these little tournaments, and we don't have any association with it, so if there's some liability, that's on you, man. Maybe they're so afraid of something like 2020, because, it's obvious by how fast they are at issuing these statements, right? This came within 2 days of this news. They released a full statement. It's obvious that Nintendo is keyed in to what the community is doing, and they're concerned about this. So they might be so concerned with their own brand image, which kind of makes sense in the context of the family-friendly Nintendo, that they just see esports tournaments run at a grassroots level as an existential risk, and they just do not want to deal with another 2020 where there's some massive allegations or there's some stuff that's associated with their brand. That's the only reason I could think about why they would not allow grassroots tournaments. But the end result is it just sucks, right? It just sucks because FGC, I will say this, unapologetically, that FGC and Smash is my favorite esport. It really is. I actually invested in Smash Esports as the CEO of Counterlogic Gaming, and if you remember CLG Void or SFAT or PPU, these are guys that we brought on because I was super excited about the scene, and while we couldn't get sponsors for them at the time, we just wanted them to exist because they're awesome. So we had a whole Smash community we were trying to help build just because we believed in the sport. It's so exciting. It's so much more engaging to me than a lot of other esports where just the feeling of just the hype moments and everything. I could get into it. It'd be a whole nother video, but it's so exciting. So it's really disappointing to see what is happening here. And that kind of leads us to where we are now and what's going to happen next and what I think is going to happen next. So before I do that, you are 30 minutes into a Devin Nash video, which means time for the secret call out. Leave a comment. I'm 30 minutes in the YouTube description. Say, hey, I'm 30 minutes in. This is the secret call out. I got here. I'm still watching. I appreciate all you guys who watch the whole video and you're into this kind of deep dive content that's like we're really going to break down every single issue because I want you to have a total understanding. It takes a lot of time. And in this day and age, we have 6-second attention spans. So you still being here at 30 minutes means the world to me. I don't have that much to announce to talk to you about. Let's say patreon.com/Devin Nash has over 80 videos of teaching about marketing and business. If you like that kind of stuff, go pop over there, patreon.com/Devin Nash. Support me for $5. I'd appreciate it. It helps pay editors, helps pay thumbnails, stuff like that for these videos. Not editors, I'm the editor, but it helps pay thumbnails. So come check that out. And that's it. That's all I'll say. I just want to break down what is going on with the latest here and what is going to happen next. Well, we have to understand that this new Nintendo change for licensing is pretty scary. It's scary because Nintendo could easily just tell Panda Global, we're giving you a license. You guys are the only people that can run these tournaments. While Nintendo has said several times that they're open to other people having a license, it is very clear by SWT's process that SWT took them over a year to even get any kind of like back and forth. Just like their application process seems to, for a license, isn't like, oh, I submit a form and then within like a week I know what's going to happen. It seems to take months, if not a year, to get a response. And that requires direct back and forth with Nintendo PMs who may not even know what's going on. So the licensing system is pretty scary because while Nintendo is they can release something where we're happy to give licenses to anybody. You just apply. It seems really hard to apply. And furthermore, while they say that SWT was not licensed because of health and safety, they don't state what these guidelines are. And they don't state what this actually is going to be like. So my guess is that SWT and VG Bootcamp pretty much have no idea why they failed, right? They have no idea why they failed this application or why they're not ever being considered to be approved for an application later, and even given a course to how they can Nintendo has already decided to not license any 2023 activities. So that tells me that there is no recourse, there is no way that the Smash World Tour can improve. And now, in my correspondence with some of the people that work at the Smash World Tour, a lot of these people go way back. I know a lot of them. I don't know Smash World Tour to not be professional. They manage themselves pretty well. I believe them when they said that they had very cordial calls with Nintendo. It seems weird to me that Nintendo is not even willing to give SWT reasons okay, here's why we denied you and here's what you could do to improve in 2023. 2023 is a long time, right? At least halfway through the year, give us 6 months to improve this stuff, resubmit our license and tell you how we improve. Why is that not an option, right? So it's really worrisome to me that it is this difficult to negotiate with Nintendo and it's this difficult to work with them for a license, and a professional organization like SWT was unable to basically breach this process. So if they were unable to, what are people that are grassroots organizers like Ludwig or Moist Critical or a lot of these really cool people that are just putting their own money in to support Smash tournaments? What are they going to do? Right? How hard is it going to be for them to go back and forth with Nintendo to get an actual answer? What is the vetting process? We just don't know so much about what Nintendo actually wants from us. And I think that all of that paints the unfortunate dystopian picture that maybe Panda Global are really going to be the only players in town. And the tournaments that are going to just kind of try to get away with running a grassroots tournament, hoping that Nintendo doesn't notice. But if you have an active player in the game like Panda Global that's going around telling tournament organizers or telling Nintendo about the tournament organizers and saying, look at this is unlicensed, this is unlicensed, this is unlicensed, because Nintendo on their own is going to be slower to kind of notice this stuff. And I think they probably won't cease and desist most of the time. And that's been the relationship that Nintendo has had with the Smash community for the past 15 years. But the X factor here, the thing that changed, was Panda Global. And if there's one group to look at with great scrutiny saying this as a former supporter of Panda Global. I used to mess around with a dude there who was the co-founder was David, and I had a great experience with him. He's an amazing professional. It was really cool how he helped prop up the scene. This Alan guy I've never personally met, but I am not really a fan of. Like I really want Panda Global to come out and Alan personally to come out and take some serious accountability and explain this process through, because right now it does not make sense to me. It doesn't add up. This is really weird. Coming from an org owner, like I don't understand what their motive is here. Let me rephrase that to make it even more serious. I don't understand what good motive they could have here, right? Like I feel like the current state of Smash really sucks, because we're in a position where if it's true that Panda Global is just going around and they've got they've basically got this like carte blanche from Nintendo that they've got a licensed tournament they're running, and they can just go, hey, I heard that you might get shut down, and then they're one phone call away from a Nintendo executive that says, hey, this guy's running an unlicensed tournament that's outside of the Panda Cup, and they're giving us trouble. Like, what is the recourse for those grassroots organizers? And all that does is hurt esports. Now, I can see the business incentive for why Panda Global want to do this, and that's what worries me. They want to do this because they want exclusivity. They want exclusive broadcasting rights. They want to own the Smash ecosystem. That is an incredible opportunity for them, and it is very financially viable, and it is hard as an esports team in a recession to make enough money, and this is a great way to get sponsors and to get Nintendo support and to get backing and to keep their organization afloat. So this really worries me. And I think that as a community, we need to hold Panda Global accountable, or I would even go so far as to say, carefully, that you should not support Panda Cup until they come out, like as of the time of this recording, if they come out with a great explanation for everything that happened, and they say, okay, like, this is what happened. Alan breaks down step by step what happened, and there's something that is revealed about this. But until then, this statement should not make you feel better. This is a bullshit PR statement that's crafted by a legal team, and it's not acceptable. I think Panda Global has a lot to account for, and the only way that as a community that FGC is going to be able to advance forward is to not support things like Panda Cup when it is basically blatantly apparent to me that they are doing some serious nefarious things to hold back esports and as a whole. And again, I understand the business reason for it, but I don't like it. It really blows, and I just wish this was different, because I think the future of Smash Esports is going to be such that it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. If we have this active watcher going around, like looking at every unlicensed tournament, and then Nintendo has the Eye of Sauron is like kind of like brighter on esports. It's going to be hard for legitimate organizers who have created some tournaments that I've loved to watch over the past 6 months to actually make tournaments happen in 23. And even worse than that, a lot of organizers who were running grassroots events are going to be afraid to do so now that a major tournament was shut down 2 weeks before with no recourse. Because imagine, it takes a lot of work to build a tournament, man. It takes a lot of work, and you have contracts with like the place that you're going to have that tournament physically. You have flights. You have so much overhead and so much logistics that it is a nightmare to get that call 2 weeks before your tournament and be like, shut it all down. Oh my God. Like, that is going to scare every grassroots organizer out of running physical tournaments. And maybe a lot of them are going to be scared of just running tournaments at all, with Nintendo issuing a cease and desist like this. So unless we see some kind of update from Panda Global that really explains this, or Nintendo comes out and says, hey, to be clear, we are still supporting Smash Esports and we're still cool with it, I would be really, really afraid for the future of Smash Esports now. It just looks really bad for 2023. And I wish I had better news. But like, the Nintendo licensing is obviously messed up, and the future of the whole esport is under threat, because not only of Panda Global's actions and their level of communication, but also of Nintendo's. And this is new. Like, I think the only X factor here is Panda Global. They're the ones that came in and changed things, because 15 years of sort of like tension between Nintendo, and sure, Nintendo did come in and like shut down tournaments and do some damage here and there, but mostly turned a blind eye to events that were happening. What's changed is Panda Global. So I'd like to see some more clarification about that. Now, I hope I've empowered you as a fellow esports enjoyer with all the information you need to kind of go forward. And I encourage you to put a lot of scrutiny on Panda Global and what they're doing, and I will be watching them super closely and make a video update if anything changes. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you have a total view of the Smash scene. Leave a comment if you do and what you think about this, or any information that I need to add. I'll provide all my links for all my research in the description down below. Thank you, everybody. Please consider supporting the Patreon. I'll see you again soon. Bye.